A 21-year-old third baseman just won the home run derby in the other guy's ballpark. Jordan Walker from the St. Louis Cardinals beat Kyle Schwarber in the final in Philadelphia in front of a crowd that showed up expecting a coronation. That happened Monday night, and it's the third most interesting thing that happened in baseball this week. And that's where we start. The standings don't lie, and the box scores don't either. I'm Pete Dwyer, and this is a division line from the Baseball Nerd. 6 divisions, 30 teams, and one weekly breakdown of what the numbers actually say. Welcome back from the All-Star break. Today's show is about what happens when you get to see how the sausage gets made. Because last week, ESPN put a crew inside the White Sox war room the day before the draft. And what they captured, without meaning to, was every trade, every extension, and every contract in baseball, running on the same 4 questions. I'm going to walk you through those 4 questions. And then I'm going to show you where I would have argued with everyone in that room. But first, let's get to the Derby, the All-Star game, and a juiced ball claim that I guess we should talk about. The Home Run Derby featured Jordan Walker over Kyle Schwarber in the finale in Philly. That's the headline. The numbers, Walker hit 12 in the final round. In a swing-based format with no clock in a park that's not his home. Schwarber hit 11 in the ballpark he plays half his games in. I told you last week the Derby's a coin flip. 24 out of 50 participants in the last 7 years had a better second half than the first half. It's not a curse. It's not a boost. It's just noise. But there is a piece I want to add to that, because the model has something to say about Walker specifically. Walker's spark score has been climbing for 6 weeks, not because of his home run rate, because of his contact quality against velocity above 96 miles an hour. That's the metric that separates young hitters who look good from young hitters who are about to look great. And Walker has been trending up on it since the beginning of June. Let's be real, the Derby didn't create anything, but it confirmed something the underlying data was already saying. That's the frame I want you carrying into the second half. Don't watch what a hitter did last night. Watch what his underlying stuff has been doing for 6 weeks. Bryce Harper lost, and afterward he told John Heyman he thought the Derby balls were juiced. I don't know if he's right. Nobody does yet. But here's how you'd actually check. You'd pull the average exit velocity of home runs hit in the Derby, and you'd compare it to the average exit velocity of home runs hit at Citizens Bank Park during the regular season by the same batch of players. If the Derby balls are juiced, you'd see extra carry, meaning balls hit at the same exit velocity travel further. That gap is measurable, and it shows up in the data, or it doesn't. If somebody publishes that number this week, I'll have it for you next Monday. If they don't, I'm going to get it myself, and I'll have it for you. But here's the meta point. Whenever a player makes a claim about the shape of the game, juiced balls, dead balls, sticky stuff, umpire zones, there's a way to test it. That's this show. Numbers, not feelings. Even when the feelings come from Bryce Harper. Okay, on to the All-Star game. We're going to make this quick. An exhibition game doesn't move any needles in the second half race. The American League won 4-0. They shut out the National League. Junior Caminero got the start at third base. He went 1 for 2 with a double and looked exactly like the guy the model has been telling you to watch. 2 quick call-outs on the All-Star game, and then we move on. Number 1, no starter from any team in the American League East, not named Tampa Bay. That's a small thing that says a bigger thing about how the first half actually went. Number 2, The National League got shut out in the All-Star game for the second time in 3 years. If you're a fan of the senior circuit, the numbers this half are not on your side, and this exhibition was just a symptom. And on to the main event. Last week, my phone let off the ESPN alert. Jesse Rogers had a story going live touting inside access to the White Sox war room. The day before Chicago went on the clock, round one, pick one. I was in a client meeting. I couldn't read it. I got back to work. But a couple hours later at lunch, opened up the phone and started reading the article. About the middle of the article, I got a pretty sheepish grin on my face. Stretching ear to ear, it sounded really familiar. Jesse Rogers walked us through the front office debate over Rock Kalowski and Grady Emerson, department by department. White Sox and baseball great Phil Nevin vouching for a kid's character. A scouting director comparing a junior year dip to turbulence at cruising altitude. A team photographer flying to Arizona on a hunch and posing as an MLB camera crew so the family wouldn't know who was picking. It was a great story. Most people close that tab with some great anecdotes and no framework. But underneath 40 minutes of conversation, more than 24 evaluators across every department in a major league club were all answering the same 4 questions. I know the questions they were answering because I built a model about them. I did it 8 months ago. I want to walk you through them because once you understand what the questions are, you can't unsee them, and it will change the way you look at this game. Question 1. Is the player improving, flat, or declining? Mike Shirley, Chicago's vice president of amateur scouting, admitted Kalowski's junior year at UCLA got bumpy. A 320 batting average, 452 on base, 636 slugging. That sounds pretty elite, and it is, until you learn that it was a slight step back from his sophomore season. While 18-year-old Grady Emerson was closing the gap fast enough to turn a runaway into a coin flip. The room spent real time on the direction of each player's arrow, not just its current position. That is trajectory analysis. It's year-over-year change in production, weighted heavier than the raw line itself. What does that have to do with anything? Here's the current baseball application. Boston has won 13 straight. Their raw record, 50 and 48, third in the AL East. That's the current position. But the trajectory is the story. For the past month, the Red Sox have been the best offense in the American League. That's the arrow pointing up. That's why the streak isn't a fluke, and why the next 2 weeks matter more than the last 2. Trajectory beats position. Question 2 from the room. What do the underlying skills say, independent of results? This is where director of hitting Ryan Fuller earned his seat in the room. He split Kalowski into 2 players. Before 2 strikes, he's hitting 1,400 OPS and Fuller's favorite swings in the whole class. But behind in the count, after 2 strikes, his hard hit rate collapsed by 16 points. Pop-up spiked, and he hit 198. Okay. Fuller wasn't looking at the results. He was looking at contact quality under specific conditions. Because, and this is the line I want you to remember, contact quality predicts and batting average lies. The same logic is on the other side of the debate. Chicago's analytics group flagged that Emerson's contact rate was running a little below what his swing should produce, and that breaking balls gave him trouble. Process metrics, not results. Again, let's use current baseball to highlight it. The White Sox and the Guardians are a game apart in the American League Central. Their records are fundamentally identical, but their contact quality profiles are not. Chicago's underlying offensive numbers say they're a slightly better team than their record shows. Cleveland says that they're overperforming. Correction, re-record 3, 2, 1. Cleveland say they're overperforming by 2, maybe 3 wins. The underlying skills say that Chicago is a favorite. That's the kind of thing you can't see if you're only watching results. Question 3. White Sox GM Chris Getz made a point most readers skim past. The White Sox infield has no holes in the major league level, so whoever they drafted could develop organically instead of being rushed to save a rebuild. Opportunity shaped the evaluation of both players. And Getz even brought in a note from A's manager Mark Kotsay about the college atmosphere the current Sox roster runs on, and weighed which prospect's background fit it. Context matters, sometimes more than talent. Again, getting into current baseball and what we can see where this becomes real. The Dodgers are 63-36, 12 games up. On paper, they're running away with the National League West. But look at the context. Their rotation has been stitched together with duct tape and dreams since May, and they're about to get 2 starters back in the next 3 weeks. Meanwhile, the team chasing them, the Diamondbacks, are fully healthy right now. Corbin Carroll can't stop hitting triples. He's on a record pace. They can't gain ground. Context is a lens. It changes what a number means. A 12-game lead with reinforcements coming is not the same as a 12-game lead with the roster that you've got. The National League West gap is about to widen. Question 4. Where do age and adjustability put the ceiling? The White Sox Sports Performance Group projected Kalowski adding 15 pounds and Emerson adding 20 as they aged. Then they graded Emerson's power output at the 50th percentile against current big leaguers, but adjusted for age, and he's in the 90th. That's an age curve doing some heavy lifting. Meanwhile, the single most repeated theme in the entire meeting was Kalowski's ability to make adjustments. Ryan Fuller told him he hated his armbar and the organization didn't like his 2-strike approach. Kalowski said, "Yeah, my dad told me that and I'm changing it." Documented, sourced evidence of adaptability. Coachability. Age plus adjustability equals ceiling. Not tools, not swagger, not the raw line. The gap between where a young player is now and where his age curve and his adjustability say he could be. Highlight it with current baseball right now. Junior Caminero is 22 years old. He just started in the All-Star game. He's been adjusting to Major League breaking balls in real time all season, and his contact rate against them has climbed every month. The ceiling on this player is not what he's doing right now. The ceiling is what happens in year 3, year 4, when the adjustments stack. That's the difference between a good young player and a franchise-changing player. And the way you spot it in advance is by watching adjustability, not stat lines. Okay, I promised you an argument. I want to sit with this for a minute, though. If I tell you the 4 questions and that the model that I built agrees with all 4 questions, okay, great. I'm just selling you something. It didn't, and I would pick a fight on this. My model, Spark, would have penalized Kolowski on question 1. His junior year was flat to slightly down, and flat trajectories score poorly, no matter how pretty the raw line is. If the White Sox had put both players through Spark's framework, they can't because it runs on minor and major league data, Kolowski's trajectory component would have dinged him. But the room looked past it. They had a context that my model can't see. Kolowski was getting attacked hard in and soft away all spring. He's never worked with a professional hitting coach. The White Sox bet is that the flat year was a pitching adjustment he hasn't answered yet, not a ceiling. They might be right. That is the honest boundary of any quantitative model, and it's why the numbers and the scouts belong in the same room, not in 2 different places yelling at each other on Twitter. But here's what I want you to notice. When the room disagreed with the model on one component, there were 3 pointed the same way, up. Elite underlying skills, a development-friendly organizational context, the best adjustability evidence in the class, and an age curve that puts him on the doorstep of the window where breakouts actually happen. The war room spent a lot of time on makeup and leadership. The pick still landed exactly where the measurable stuff pointed. When feelings and the numbers agree on 101, it's worth asking which one was load-bearing. Numbers, not feelings. Even in the most feelings-heavy room in baseball. Okay, games that matter this week. There's 3 series to watch this week, all starting today. The Dodgers at Phillies. The best team in baseball visits a direct National League contender. The Phillies are climbing. We've seen this game before. This is a clear potential postseason preview. And if you want a data point on whether the Dodgers are actually as good as the record says, this would be one of the series to watch. Number 2, Orioles at Red Sox. Boston put a winning streak on the line against another American League East opponent. They swept 4. If the 13-game winning streak they're on now survives this series, we're talking about a very different American League East picture by the trade deadline. If it doesn't, the trajectory story I told you gets a little more complicated. Number 3, the White Sox take on the Texas Rangers. The American League Central leader against the American League West leader. 2 teams whose records barely clear 500. 2 teams with almost no margin for error. One team has the underlying stats to prove they belong. But whichever one comes out of this series with a series win or a sweep gets to spend the rest of July calling themselves the favorite in their division. The other one needs to buckle up. That's the line. If you want the Spark and Fade leaderboards that are updated weekly with every flag player and every component score, that lives on Substack. TheBaseballNerd.com will get you there. New episodes drop every Monday morning. Please like, follow, and share. This is Numbers Not Feelings on the division line, and I'll see you next Monday.